Algebra 2, Target 1. I can interpret parts of an expression. The first target we're looking at is largely a vocabulary target. We're going to be looking at parts of an expression. You need to know what they are. So when I say something like, what's the constant, what's the variable, you can tell me where that is in the expression. We'll start with a few terms: numbers, variables, and operations. These are all parts of an expression. Numbers, I hope you know the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4. Variables are the letters. They are taking the place of numbers. They're numbers we don't know yet, or they're numbers like pi, where we have such a fancy long expression that we use a number or a letter to shorten it. Then we got a few operations: plus, minus, multiply, and divide. Okay? Parts that are combined using multiplication and or division are called a term. So some examples of terms: 3x, that's called a term because it's a number and a variable combined by multiplication or division. All right? If you have more than one term together, you can combine them by addition and subtraction. So 4x squared plus 5x minus 7, that would be an example of 3 terms. Okay? And expressions can be identified by the number of their terms. If there's one term, we call it a monomial. Example of a monomial, 5. That's a monomial. It's one term. Right? A binomial has 2 terms. Bi for bicycle. So 2x plus 7 is a binomial. And then 3 terms is a trinomial, like a tricycle. Or the famous dinosaur, the Triceratops, had 3 horns. Example of a trinomial: x squared plus 2x plus 1. And then any number of terms, we'll call that a polynomial. Poly meaning many. In fact, these all could be considered polynomial because they have one or more terms. Okay, expressions can also be identified by the highest exponent or the degree of any one term. So if something has a degree of 0, it's called a constant. Another way we'll express that is if it's just a number, it's called a constant. So 5 is a constant. Call it a constant because it never changes, whereas a variable will vary based on what x is. If it's degree 1, it's considered linear. And by the way, these degrees we're talking about are all whole number degrees. We're not going to talk about a 3.5 degree polynomial. It's going to be a first degree, a second degree, third degree, or so on. The first degree is a linear. That's your y equals mx plus b, or 5x minus 8. Your second degree is a quadratic. You're familiar with that as being a parabola. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, I used all variables or all letters, but I can throw in other numbers. We can say y equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 7. And then your third degree is called your cubic. Anything higher, they do have special names, but for our intents and purposes, just call it a 4th degree or a 5th degree or so on. You do get highers. They do have fancy names for them, but for Algebra 2, 4th degree is fine. 5th degree is fine. We do want you to know the fancy names for 3rd degree and under. A standard form of an expression, when we write the terms in order from left to right, starting to the highest degree and working our way down. So for example, if we have a 5th degree, our first term on the left would be 3x to the 5th, and then anything to the right of that would have to be smaller than the term to the right or to the left. So 3x to the 5th plus, let's say, 5x to the 3rd, it has to be smaller. It doesn't have to be the next one down. This example just skipped the 4th power. So 3x to the 5th plus 5x to the 3rd plus 2x squared plus x plus the constant. That's an example of a term or an expression in standard form. Highest power, and then ordered out. If you wanted to fill in the gaps, because it confuses you, go ahead. 3x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th plus 5x cubed plus 2x squared plus x plus 5. Okay, the leading coefficient is the number multiplied by the variable with the highest exponent. So let's go back at that last example. Let's take this expression in standard form. Okay, our lead coefficient, once we have it in standard form, just go right here. What's the coefficient? The leading coefficient is the number on the term with the highest power. The term with the highest power is 5 and the coefficient is 3. So our leading coefficient is 3 of this 5th degree polynomial. Okay, an example. After I read this, pause, try yourself, and see if you're correct. For the following expression, tell how many terms it has, write it in standard form, and identify the leading coefficient and constant. I'm going to add on what degree is it. All right, so I see 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 terms, right in standard form. So find the highest power. We'll put that at the far left. 4x to the 4th minus 2x squared plus 3x plus 7. All right, so it has 4 terms. It is now in standard form. The leading coefficient of this 4th degree polynomial, the leading coefficient is 4. Now, just because it's the 4th degree doesn't mean the leading coefficient is going to be 4. So leading coefficient is 4. It's a 4th degree, and the constant, the part without a variable, is 7. All right, so in conclusion, we need to know what is a leading coefficient. How do you tell the difference between terms? What's a constant? How do you tell degree? And what are the different types of polynomials?